Here we go. Did not check audio before we got started, but what's up, everyone? Welcome to Cameron+Deanna. My name is Cameron. Today we are going to be chatting Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the latest set coming to Magic the Gathering with Universes Beyond. We had Final Fantasy a little bit ago. We just had Edge of Eternities as well, and then Spider-Man upcoming. And then end of the year, we also have Avatar, The Last Airbender, coming as the third Universes Beyond standard set. So, while Lorcana has definitely been taking over my IRL TCG stuff, I still play a good amount of Magic Arena. And so I thought it would be fun to come in and like do a pass through these cards, figure out what's going on and keep an eye on them and see, of course, like while I'm not playing Commander as much, mostly just because of general busyness, I definitely am still interested in a lot of these cards for Commanders and seeing how they can fit in. And then also I'm interested in if any of them are going to be like crazy hype and things that I want to play. And so we're going to kind of dig into it, talk through them. We're going to talk through the main Spider-Man set. There's also like a Spider-Man Welcome product that we're going to talk through. Then there's also some really cool alt art reprints that are like the bonus sheet that have really cool Spider-Man art. So we're going to take a look through that, kind of celebrate the amazingness that is the Amazing Spider-Man. And then, yeah, that's kind of the goal for today. Just kind of see where we end up. Let's switch over to our chatting screen. Here's some of those cool alt arts. There we go. And then while it has been a hot minute since we have done an actual set review, we do have our super complex spreadsheet of all of the cards that I am looking at for my various Commander decks. And so, yeah, so that's where we are right now. We're going to, actually, let's go through, I want to sort by number. Yeah, okay. So we're going to go through them this way and kind of just chat through cards, see what all jumps out to us. And like I said, I mainly play on Arena or play Commander. So we'll be kind of talking about them of what seems fun in those places between Brawl and between Commander. And then I do play some Explorer. We'll see if any of these cards would be exciting for Explorer. Or I guess it's Pioneer now, finally. But yeah, so that's kind of the goal. We're going to just kind of see how this goes, chat through it. Like I said, it's been a hot minute since we've talked about Magic cards on this channel with Lorcana taking over. But yeah, so here we are. Let's start at number 1 with Anti-Venom, Horrifying Healer, man. 5 white pips for a 5/5 symbiote hero. Oh, I should say, as I immediately interrupt myself, none of these versions of the cards are coming to Magic Arena. Like, Wizards didn't get the digital rights to the characters, I guess. So on Arena, there's going to be completely different names for all of these cards. And so, so just kind of be aware if you are a primarily Arena player, you will have to figure out that translation for what is what. So, and then I have heard some complaints about this around the internet, and generally speaking, I agree. Like, this is kind of just like throw every Magic the Gathering character, or every Spider-Man character into a Magic set. I think it would have been really cool if this would have like actually been like a story in some way. Like if they would have picked like a specific arc to focus in on. I think that would have been super cool. I don't necessarily know how that would have worked, but it would have been fun. And so we kind of get the whole, like kind of as a result, we definitely get the whole Spider-Verse kind of thing with these characters where there's all the different takes from all the different timelines. And so, so yeah, so there's a whole bunch going on, whole bunch of different characters. And so, yeah, so let's get into it. So Anti-Venom enters if it was cast, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. I'm so used now to saying character from Lorcana instead of accidentally saying creature that now I have to do the opposite, and it is like messing with my brain. So if damage would be dealt to Anti-Venom, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on him. Very cool card. I think this would make a fun mono white commander. There's a lot of ways of like redirecting damage, which you could just use as a way of like growing Anti-Venom, and then you could play like Shadow Spear to give him trample and lifelink. So you would have this like gigantic thing coming at your opponents, which I think would be pretty fun. And then also very cool, like if you're playing a 5 mana thing that reanimates things, you can also use that to reanimate other things. I think you'd have a hard time playing this in any deck that is more than 2 colors, since you need to be so heavy white, but that's pretty interesting. And then we have Arachne Psionic Weaver, 2 and a white for a 3/3 spider human hero. So this is, I feel like this set is the first time that we're seeing spiders in white and blue. I could be wrong there. There could be a whole lot more spiders than I think, but I think typically spiders are in Jund, and so kind of branching out spiders into new colors is interesting. Let's see, web slinging. So you can cast a spell for 1 for just white, and if you also return a tapped creature you control to its owner's hand. So this is like a ninjutsu-esque ability, except you just have to have a tapped creature. So like this would be really good with like Avacyn's Pilgrim, where you could like tap Avacyn's Pilgrim for white, use that white to play this character, bounce Avacyn's Pilgrim, replay them. And so like that could be pretty cool since that's some good tempo. When it enters, look at their opponent's hand, choose a card type other than creature. Spells of the chosen type cost 1 more to cast. That's fun. Cool little like hate bear. And so you could use this to like offset their removal spells. You could use this to slow down a control deck. Like if you hit sorcery, then they can't wrath you. Get an extra turn there. That's pretty cool. As we're going to see, there's so many legendary characters in this. It's not like you can like stack this effect easily, but this would be a cool way of like putting your opponent just like a little behind in tempo. I know there's like a mono white like tokeny control deck in standard, and so maybe this finds a home there. Aunt May, 1 white, human citizen, 0/2. When another creature enters, you may gain a life. If it's a spider, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this is like a soul sister that also grows your spiders. So I assume like auto include in every spider deck, which is probably the point. Like every Spider-Man deck is going to play Aunt May, which is fantastic flavor. City Pigeon. The great majestic City Pigeon. 1 white for a 1/1 flying. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Yeah, that's something. I don't necessarily know why we need a City Pigeon in Magic, but here we are. I like that this gives you 2 things for 1 mana. Like, a food token's not typically as good as a clue token for like Thraben Inspector, but like getting 2 bodies is pretty solid. And there's it's from Corey or Ixalan when we went back, Lost Caverns, where you like tap 3 things and then it grows. And so this gives you more payoffs in that deck. I don't know if that deck's looking for more stuff, but Costume Closet, 1 and a white artifact, enters with 2+1/+1 counters. Move a counter, +1/+1 counter from this artifact to another target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. Whenever a modified creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this artifact. And so, basically, this kind of like pays itself back, right? Like you put the counter on the thing, and then that creature leaves the battlefield somehow, and then the counter gets brought back, and then you can theoretically stack up more counters. So, like, that's pretty fun. Like, I don't know if that's good, but I like this idea of, like, the costumes are out here powering up the character. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool flavor. Daily Bugle Reporters, 3 and a white for a 3/2. When this creature enters, choose 1 puff piece. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Investigate a journey. Return target creature with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If this was like cheaper, we could consider this for Hamza, but it does like put a counter on itself and a counter on something else if you needed to spread it out. But Hamza, I think, has too much good stuff now. Flash Thompson, Spider Fan, 1 and a white for a 2/2. Flash Thompson has Flash, and then when Flash Thompson enters, choose one or both. Heckle, tap target creature. Hero worship, untap target creature. No one cares about your Spider-Man obsession Flash, by Liz Allen. This is cool. Like, it's interesting that you're locked to creatures, so you can't use this as like a way of like bringing in some like weird untap shenanigans, which is probably for a good thing. But like, if you can get a creature that generates more than 2 mana, you could use this as a way of like playing Flash for free. So, Friendly Neighborhood, cool art. I really like this one. Let's go this way a little bit. Yeah. So when it's enchant land for 3 and a white. When this aura enters, create 3 1/1 green and white citizens. And then enchanted land has 1 tap. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So of course, like ideally, you have several creatures in play by the time you play this, and then you create 3, pump something up, and then attack your opponent. It's cool if you already have trample. It having to be activated as a sorcery kind of sucks for just like slowing things down. Yeah, that's some interesting stuff there. And so next we have Origin of Spider-Man, because as with most universes beyond, we have sagas, because sagas just do a great job at conveying story. So it's a 3/1 or 3 like phase saga. First one, create a 2/1 spider creature with reach. 2, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It becomes a legendary spider hero in addition to its other types. And then target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. So like worst case scenario, you're like putting this that +1/+1 counter on your spider, making it a 3/2, and then on the next turn attacking for 6. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I think it's like flavorfully, like the origin of Spider-Man is not like a random spider shows up, like that spider becomes bigger and then takes over. But like I get that you probably like from a gameplay perspective, making the counter go somewhere else like probably isn't great. Like this would have been a really fun like search for a like spider hero or something like that. But that's probably would then just be a lot of mana. So, and next up, we have our first of like I mean, there's going to be a whole lot of all of the versions of the main spider people. So we're getting our first Peter Parker, and then there's a cycle of the spider hero or spider characters that are modal double-faced cards that can also transform. And so for people that don't know what that means in Magic, typically if a card has 2 faces, a front and a back, like Peter Parker with this symbol, you can typically only play one side or the other side, and then they kind of stay how they are. Or you can only play the front side, and then there's a way to flip it back and forth. This is a new way of doing it where they're kind of combining both of those. And so you can play Peter Parker on this side or the other side, or you can flip to the other side as you suit up. So Peter Parker is an 0/1 for 1 and a white. Like shout out to Aunt May. Like Aunt May's an 0/2, and this pigeon, for the record, this pigeon can defeat Peter Parker. And so when Peter Parker enters, create a 2/1 spider creature with reach. And then you can pay 1 green, white, blue to transform Peter Parker as a sorcery. Or you can pay 1 green, white, blue to just cast him as the Amazing Spider-Man, who's a 4/4 with vigilance and reach. Then each legendary spell you cast with 1 or more colors has web slinging. So basically you can return a tapped creature, pay 3 mana instead of whatever its cost is. So like this would be a really good way of like cheating out really big legendary spells. I know I saw stuff with it's not Urza's Ruinous Blast, but it's legendary source. No, that's source. Okay, legendary. We'll just do it this way. Did I mean legend? Okay, advanced search. Let's see, we want legendary sorcery. We want that commander identity, and then search. Karn's Temporal Sundering. There we go. That's the spell I was thinking of. So like this lets you bounce something your opponent controls and then take an extra turn. So like you could cast this for 3 by having a tapped creature and then take an extra turn. There's also like Kamal's Druidic Vow. Look at the top X cards. Put any number of land and or legendary permanents and convert a mana cost. So it's a Genesis wave for legendaries or lands, which is pretty good. And then yeah, Urza's Ruinous Blast to destroy all permanents that aren't legendary. So you get a cool like legendary kindred thing there. I do wish when we talk about color identity that you had some other options of playing some of the other big spider people in this deck, just because having Peter Parker be the leader of your Spider-Man deck I think is very flavorful. But and that would let you actually like web sling in all of the spider people that don't have web slinging. And so which I don't know how many of those there are, but yeah. So fun card, obviously like be a fun build around for Commander just because it's Spider-Man and is kind of a big deal. We might take a look at the Peter Parker Spider-Man at the end if they're easy to figure out, but Rent is due. Let's say beginning of your end step, you may tap 2 untapped creatures and or treasures if you do draw a card, otherwise sacrifice this enchantment. So like it's a card draw enchantment that you have to keep some things untapped for. Like if you're a treasure deck, this is easy, right? You just like hold up 2 treasures for the rest of the game and you get a free card every turn. Like if you can get those treasures quickly and then get this going, like that's pretty cool. I think you're probably in bad luck if you're having to use creatures to do this, because I don't believe you can web sling as a sorcery or at instant speed. Cast this spell for its web slinging cost. Yeah, I saw. Like I think you can't like tap a creature and then you could web sling an instant but you can't use it to like web sling the character since you're in your instep. But some cool card draw in white. Selfless Police Captain, 1 and a white for a 1/1. When they enter with a 1/1 counter, then when they leave the battlefield, put its 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Great flavor there. Like they like sacrifice themselves to make the hero stronger, and so that's pretty cool. We have Silver Sable, Mercenary Leader, a character that I like know nothing about other than what is in the Marvel Spider-Man game. When they enter, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature. When they attack, target modified creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. So Sable has to attack for the bottom part, and then the counter has to go on something else. I feel like if either of those were different, we would play this card in Hamza. Like if Sable could put the counter on herself, or if Sable didn't have to attack, you could just give a modified creature lifelink. But with both of those things being as they are, I feel like we are not going to play this. And so next up, we got Spectacular Spider-Man. And so I do appreciate them. Like we have Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man. I do appreciate them using those. Like that's, I feel like, is low-hanging fruit when it comes to like do the things that the fans expect. But I am very excited that we got that. Okay, so he's a 2 mana 3/2 with flash. You can pay 1 to give him flying, then pay 1, sacrifice him for creatures you control to gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Not overly excited about this like leading a deck, but this seems like a really cool role player. Like worst case scenario, it's like 3 mana, protect your team, and then like best case scenario, like this is a fun threat. That is like having a 3/2 for 2 that can gain flying feels pretty good. Next up, we have Spectacular Tactics, 1 and a white. Put a counter on target creature, gains hexproof. So cool protection piece, or you can use it to destroy a creature with power 4 or greater. Nice. That's some cool flexibility. Not much else to say there. Spectacular Web Slinger. So this is a common version of Peter. 2 and a white for a 3/3 with web slinging 1. And so again, really cool with like an Averson's Pilgrim type effect where like you can tap it for white mana, play this out, then replay the Mana Dork. Spider UK. Let's see. You may cast a spell for its web sling. Oh, it's a 3 and a white for a 3/4 with web slinging 3 at the beginning of your end step. If 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under control, draw a card and gain 2 life. So if you can keep card draw flowing, like that's pretty strong. Like especially with the web slinging abilities, like you could web sling out like this Spider-Man for 1, and then like replay the thing that you web slung, and then you get this back. So yeah, that's cool. Starling Aerial Ally, 4 and a white for a 3/4 flying. When they enter, another target creature you control gains flying until end of turn, and then they have flying. This is another character I don't know a lot about, other than as like flavor text gets at. This character is prominent in Miles Morales stories, and I think they might be a couple in some of the comic books. I could be wrong there. I've not read as much Miles Morales as I would like. Cool common. Seems pretty good in limited, right? Like you can jump something and then it sticks around as a 3/4 flyer. Sudden Strike, A+ art of I believe Silk kicking Black Cat, and so 1 and a white for destroy target attacking or blocking creature. Seems great in limited. Don't have much else to say other than that. But then we have Thwip, which is now a magic card forever. A target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn. If it's a spider, gain 2 life. Web Up. This looks like a prison effect. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Yeah, cool. Web Shooters, 1 and a white. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and gains reach. And then whenever this creature attacks, tap target creature and opponent controls. Oh, that's pretty fun. Like both getting the pump effect and getting reach. Interesting that there's then like some conflict between having reach, which is a defensive ability, and the creature needing to attack to get the other part. But equip for 2 isn't bad. Wild Pack Squad, 2 and a white for a 3/2, beginning of combat on your turn. Up to 1 target creature gains first strike and vigilance. That seems pretty cool. Works great with the web shooters. With great power, there must also come great responsibility. A+ flavor text. I am shocked that this is not a double face card, though, just because that seems like that would have made sense. 3 and a white, enchant creature you control. What's up, Mystic? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday.
Hello there.
I've been good. Recently went to PAX West last weekend. That was a lot of fun. Oh, I have them somewhere. I got some promos. I was not able to actually get the Spider-Man cards at PAX West. But I did get a Behold the Sinister 6 promos, and so that was fun. And then did some Lorcana, tried out some games. Other than that, been great. Right now we are talking through and reviewing our the new Spider-Man cards coming to Magic the Gathering, and so that is what we are up to. And so, yeah, let me see. Yeah, overall it's been great. Busy day today. I had a handful of chores that had to get done this morning, then went to the gym, and then all of that stuff. And so, but yeah, hope you've had a great weekend as well. Yeah, so great power pumps up for each aura and equipment, and then all damage that would be dealt is dealt to enchanted creature instead. So this actually works great with anti-venom, which is pretty funny. Like with great power, if you would take damage, it's dealt to the creature, and then you put this on anti-venom, and then the damage is dealt to them, and you prevent that damage, and you gain a whole bunch of life. That seems pretty like crazy and limited. Like it's a rare and a mythic, so like the odds of hitting both of those. You had to make a banner for one of your clients today. Ooh, hope that goes well. Good luck. I know graphic design type stuff can be crazy. I know people can be like super picky. Next up we have Amazing Acrobatics. 1 triple blue. Ooh, Halloween theme. Let's go. It's fall. Pumpkin spice season, baby. Choose 1 counter target spell. Tap 1 or 2 creatures. That is a cancel variant that is probably not great. I can't imagine I guess it's cool if they cast a spell during your opponent casts a spell during their first main phase, because then you could counter it and tap down their attackers, which could be a great tempo piece against red decks, but it feels too slow. It's a ghost in the character combinations. Ooh, that's fun. We got Beetle, Legacy Criminal. No clue who this character is. And also I really like this Amazing Acrobatics art. I think that is super cool. To get Ghost Spider ready to go. And then so Beetle, Human, Rogue, Villain. What's that? 2 or 3/3 for 4 with flying. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains flying. And so, yeah, that's a common. We have Chameleon, Master of Disguise. This is cool. Another character that I don't know a ton about other than like their basic gimmick, but when they enter as a copy of a creature you control except their name is Chameleon, Master of Disguise. Nice. Then they have Mayhem, so if you discard them, you can play them for 3 for the rest of the turn. Timing rules still apply. So it's similar to Madness, except Madness is like right when it happens, whereas Mayhem is just that turn. And so I like this. This is a cool clone effect. Would Rashmi and Ragavan play this? Like this gives you a it's still a legendary copy, but it gives you a different named version of Rashmi and Ragavan. So like you could use this as a way of getting multiple of the effects going. What's my plan to play a spooky game? No, there's no plan to do such a thing. And so I am a scaredy cat. And so I do not really do scary games. And so the spookiest game for me would be going back and playing Last of Us. And so other than that, there are no spooky games. Occasionally on First Geek, Shanine or Emma have convinced me, as you just said, bringing up Phasmophobia, have convinced me to do like a Halloween Phasmophobia stream. But I believe right now there are no plans for such a thing. And so unless someone like asks me to like guest on their channel, there's not really any chance of there's not really any chance of me doing a scary game. And so let's see, the Clone Saga 3 and a white for Surveil 3, and then the next character, when you next cast a creature this turn, copy it, except the copy isn't legendary. Hello? I love Halloween, Mystic. Don't mistake my lack of liking scary for a dislike of Halloween. I am just all treat, no trick. And so I like silly Halloween. So like I like Hocus Pocus like style Halloween, not like scary Halloween. And so, like the silly dress up in costumes, like that type of stuff, versus the like try to like go to a haunted house is not something that I would do. Although the one like haunted house I have done was like a local one, and for trademark reasons, it was called Strangler Things because they could not say Stranger Things, and it was like the classic like high schoolers like trying to be scary, and it was just so funny how like not scary it was. But yeah, I do not do like scary stuff. So do you have plans for a costume for this year, Mystic? Because I do not for mine. I kind of just wore my like onesies the past couple years, but it's been a while since I've busted out Aang, and so I could see potentially doing that for a Halloween thing. But it would need to be like a party to actually like warrant painting an arrow on my head. Then phase 3, choose a card name. Whenever character with the chosen name deals combat damage to player this turn, draw a card. It seems just too slow. Getting a copy of something legendary is fun. Let's see. Doc Ock, Sinister Scientists. You have only one cosplay plan. Ooh, what's that? So Doc Ock 5 for a 4/5. As long as there are 8 or more cards in your graveyard, Doc Ock has base power 8/8. That's a cool like threshold style mechanic. And then as long as you control another villain, Doc Ock has hexproof. So the idea you can't like he's the planner, so you can't get to him while you have another villain. That's interesting. Doc Ock's henchman. Flash, when this character enters, it connives. So that's a cool way of like giving Doc Ock hexproof. So like you can use the henchmen to protect Doc Ock because they're a villain. I mean, I like emotes as a whole. I don't necessarily have any like preference over static versus non-static, but I kind of just enjoy the vibes. You like to make animated ones? Nice. That's something that I think would be super fun. It's definitely not my skill set, but it is very cool that people can do such a thing. Let's see. The Flying Octobot, 1 and a blue. Whenever another villain you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this character. It triggers only once each turn. It's a cool like villain deck. Payoff. Hide on the Ceiling, A+ flavor there. Would fit well in like Duskmourn, like the villain. Like the kind of this would be like in like a scary set, like Duskmourn. You could have like a monster hide on the ceiling in the art. I wonder if that's how they'll reflavor this for the online when it comes to like new art. But exile X target artifacts and or creatures. Return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. Sure, I'll hear your idea, Mystic. At the beginning of the next end step. So this protects your characters for the turn. Peter, is that you? I could have sworn I heard that boy moving around up here. Hydroman, 2 and a blue. When you cast a blue spell, if Hydroman is a creature, he gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So he has prowess basically for blue spells. And then at the beginning of your end step, untap Hydroman until your next turn. He becomes a land with tap blue, add blue. He is not a creature during that time. So this is a cool like ramp piece. So like spend 2 mana, cast Hydroman. He becomes a land. You could then spell pierce your opponent or like annul something. That's pretty cool. And then obviously has bigger payoffs down the line since he untaps himself. Right now we're not looking to add any specific emotes, Mystic, but yeah, probably like if we were going to be doing some, it would probably be like Marvel-y Disney, or Pokemon PlayStation themed stuff. So Imposter Syndrome enchantment. When a non-token creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. And we have the meme of the spiders pointing. This is, 6 mana is a lot. But I do have a unblockable creatures deck with Camise, and so that does feel like if you can be guaranteed to be making a clone of things. Don't know where my tabs are. So 6 mana, attack with something unblockable, immediately get a copy of it. That seems pretty strong. Let's see. Lady Octopus, Inspired Inventor. Just a blue mana for an O2. When you draw your first or second card each turn, put an Ingenuity counter on Lady Octopus. You may cast an artifact spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the number of Ingenuity counters without paying its mana cost. I appreciate the idea, Mystic, but right now we're not looking to add, or we're not looking to pay for any emotes. So that is a very cool idea. But let's see. So this is cool with, are there a good number of artifacts that have flash? This is a cool way, you do cast it, so they would need to have flash. Yeah. It's just, we have artist friends, so if we are going to use them, we would probably, or get new ones, we'd probably go to them. But in the short term, we just don't have plans to add new emotes, unless other than free emotes. So but yeah, this is cool. And if you can be opting or using consider, you can be getting racking up these counters on your opponent's turn. There's also a blue 1 in a blue artifact right now that when it enters or leaves, you draw a card. So you could use that as a way of pretty quickly powering up this character, and getting some cool places. I'm glad that, as much as I wish they would have picked a specific story to tell with this, I do really like that we get to see characters like Lady Octopus. Next we have Madam Web Clairvoyant. For blue, you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spider spells and non-creature spells from the top of your library. When you attack, you may mill a card. So it's future sight, literally, since she's clairvoyant, but for spiders. It's interesting that basically you can cast creature spells if they're spiders, or non-creature spells. And so welcome, Bix. Well, you missed, we're chatting Spider-Man cards. Appreciate you coming in. Not here for long, just while you eat. Appreciate you coming in while you could. That means a lot. And so, but yeah, we're talking through the new Magic the Gathering cards that are Spider-Man. We have Mysterio, also known as Jake Gyllenhaal. Yes. Yeah. When we're not talking, there are through the Omen Path versions of these cards. For this we're just talking the actual Spider-Man versions, and so not the versions that will be on Arena through a huge mistake of Wizards. And so that contract negotiation. Let's see. Master of Illusion, 3 and a blue for a 3/3. When Mysterio enters, create a 3/3 blue illusion villain. For each non-token villain you control, exile those tokens when Mysterio leaves the battlefield. That's cool. So you basically just make a whole bunch of villains, and then they go away because they're fake. Ooh, what's my favorite Spider movie? It's probably Into the Spider-Verse. That's a great question, Mystic. It's probably Into the Spider-Verse, And then probably Homecoming, and then probably Spider-Man 2 are probably like my top ones of the like various Spider franchises. Yeah, because it's crazy that they're doing that. Like, it blows my mind that they were not able to do it, and they have to go through and like basically reflavor everything. It's crazy. But yeah, what are y'all's favorite Spider-Man movies? Mysterio's Phantasm, 1 and a blue for a 1/3 flying vigilance when it enters. Yeah, when this creature attacks, mill a card. Kind of sad that this is not like a 3/3. Like, I think that would have been very cool if like this is like a card that can represent the token. But like if that was like the same vibe. And also interesting that unlike other illusions, this one doesn't go away when it becomes targeted. And so next up we have Norman Osborn. 1 and a blue for a 1/1. Oh, this is our next modal double face card. Norman can't be blocked. Whenever Norman deals combat damage to a player, he connives, and then you can transform him or just play him for 1 blue, black, red as Green Goblin. And so Flying Menace, spells you cast from the graveyard cost 2 less, so works great with Mayhem. And then Goblin Formula, each non-land card in your graveyard has Mayhem. That is equal to its mana value. Mayhem may cast a cost from your graveyard. If you discarded it this turn, time and rules still apply. So that's really cool with like other like discard effects, like Bitter Reunion type stuff. Yeah, it's a cool way of like keeping your stuff going. Also like that, like the more that Osborn plans kind of with the connive flavoring, he like powers himself up, and then you can like get to a point where you eventually discard the card, and then you pay to transform him, and then you can cast the card you connived, so, or play the card, because you can play lands, I believe. No, each non-land card. And so let's see, it doesn't surprise me, but it costs a ton perpetual licensing. Yes, I would imagine it's crazy. Yeah, it was ridiculous, and they didn't think they would make enough to afford to renew it perpetually. So better to give us arena versions than to have to take away stuff that people paid for. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, to me, the shocking part is like, we know that there's multiple Marvel sets on the way. And so just like the overall confusion between the 2 different versions of every card, and just like, because that means that they're anticipating making enough money off these Marvel sets to offset the cost of having to do through the Omen paths, and offset like the confusion of people having to do both, like keep both in mind if you're somebody that plays both physically and on arena. But then you're not anticipating making enough to warrant those perpetual fees, or whatever that licensing fee is, or whatever it would have cost to do like a one-time payout to just have the license, the rights to the card art in perpetuity. So like Green Goblin, going back, very cool Grixis commander. My Grixis deck is Marchesa the Black Rose, which doesn't really discard cards. So like this would be cool in that deck, but you'd have to like play other ways of conniving, or the ways of getting cards in the discard, which would be like a shake up to how things are. Oscorp Research Team, 7 to draw 2 cards. Cool, limited thing. Robotic Mastery, flash enchant creature. When it enters, create 2 1/1 colorless robots with flying. And then enchanted creature gets +2/+2. Cool combat trick. 5 mana seems like a lot. And so not sure how much play that would actually see even in limited, but that's a cool effect. School Days, 3 double blue, choose 1, do your homework, which is draw 3 cards, or fight crime, counter target spell, draw a card. That's cool. it's a cool payoff of like you either get an expensive counterspell but it replaces itself, or you get 3 cards. Royalty agreement, I guess, but the problem is that they I've been tracking setup to be able to tell how many packs are bought versus earned. Oh yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Like I could see that also being something that like the licensing lawyers on Marvel's side are like would want more. So like they would want free to play packs to count as whatever that perpetual fee is. And that royalty agreement would be, and Wizards would not. I can definitely see that happening. I can also see it being a mess with like the wild, like with wild cards, but also just in like the random rewards of like you earned a rare card, and then like would have to keep track of if that rare card was a Spider-Man card. Secret Identity, great art and a great throwback to a classic Magic card. 1 blue for an instant, conceal until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 and gains hexproof. Shout out to the human citizen or regular human, or what is it? The business person. One from New Capenna. Or you can reveal your identity until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a hero with base power and toughness 3/4 and gains flying and vigilance. I wish that this like left flying and vigilance as a counter. That definitely would have been way too strong for 1 blue mana. But like this seems like a really cool combat trick. You either you save your creature from a removal spell, or you pump up and like win in combat. And so. Although I guess if you're going to reveal, you would want to do it pre-combat so that you would get the vigilance and the flying would matter, but interesting. Spider Bite, Web Warden, 2 and a blue for a 2/2. When they enter, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So they're a mana war. Let's see. What better place for a virtual web spider than the World Wide Web? A virtual spider than the World Wide Web. Yeah. Spider-Bite is another one that like a character I don't know a lot about. I know she shows up in the latest Spider-Verse movie, but I do not know a lot about her. Spider-Man No More. 1 and a blue enchanted creature is a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1. It has Defender and loses all of its abilities. Being Spider-Man has brought me nothing but unhappiness. And for what? Cool. Very cool art. Some classic throwback stuff going on there. And then like a very cool way of, it's like basically you're taking your opponent's creature and being like, you're not a hero anymore. So that's fun. You get some cool flavor there. Spider Sense, 1 and a blue with web slinging 1. Counter target spell, sorcery spell, or counter target instant spell, sorcery spell, or triggered ability. So it's a very like niche amount of things that you can counter, but the fact that you could like just a 2 mana counter otherwise could still be pretty good. I like to play negate in like most of my commander decks because I just like having the ability to like the majority of the time, if I need to stop an opponent from doing something, you can use negate to stop it, or disdainful stroke. Those are like my two go-to counter spells, just because I don't like running a lot of counter spells. And I could see this kind of filling the negate role of like, yeah, sometimes you get the web slinging, but other times you can just kind of use it as a way of stopping them from messing with your stuff or hit some random triggered ability. So you've been in your current deck, you've been inclined with, you don't remember to drop Blade Brand before blockers declared more often as the way to get damage through instead of playing it as a... Yes, yeah, I've had, like, especially as I've been playing more and more Lorcana, like where at Lorcana basically everything is at sorcery speed, to use Magic language. Like I definitely have found myself like going into Arena where I play a lot of Is it Phoenix and Pioneer. And like there have been times I was like, oh, if I would have cast this like sorcery sleight of hand, I could have just pumped up my monks and won the game. But I forgot. And so it's hard. There's a lot to keep track of in Magic. Let's see. Unstable Experiment. 1 and a blue. Target player draws a card, then up to 1 target creature you control connives. So you basically a draw 2, discard 1, with the chance of like pumping up one of your creatures. That's pretty cool. Whoosh. 1 and a blue. Minus the exclamation point. I'm kind of surprised that whoosh has never been a card before. 1 and a blue with kicker 1 and a blue. So you can pay 2 blue to return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If it was kicked, draw a card. There's another card that does this, I think. And so this is just like a reskin. Okay, let's get into black. Agent Venom. 1 or 2 and a black for a 2/3 with flash, menace, and then when another non-token creature you control dies, you may draw a card and lose 1 life. That's pretty cool. Let's see, getting damage through is super important for the deck in Pioneer Historic because it's a minimum of 10% closer to death opponent. Toxic decks are toxic, if you'll pardon the pun. I have made my stance on puns well known, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense from what you're saying. So I like Agent Venom. Like, that's a very cool card. In the comics, Flash Thompson becomes Agent Venom at one point, right? Am I remembering that correctly? I don't know if this card having a flash is alluding to that, or is it just because they're like jumping in through the window, but that is pretty cool. I could see this card seeing a lot of play in just any sort of like sacrificey decks, because if you combine this with like a Sec Outlet and Blood Artist, like you're able to offset the life loss. That's cool. Is there a cool alternate art of this card? It does not show. Oh, it's over here. There's only a like extended art. This seems like one that would have a cool other art, but okay. Alien Symbiosis, 1 and a black enchant creature, gets +1/+1 and has menace, and then is a symbiote in addition to its other types. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. So I like this on Arena. I have a Brawl Nashi deck, which is the like when it deals damage you mill cards, and then you can get, I think it's enchantments and legendaries from the cards that are milled and put in your hand, and then it grows if you don't do that. So like this is cool in that deck because it hits like the enchantment side. And then it also like lets you choose to not mill it to grow your character and then cast it later. Oh, and here we go. Behold the Sinister Six. So this is the card we got a promo of at PAX. So 6 and a black for return up to 6 target creature cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. This kind of hits like the weird spot of like flavor versus mana costs of like, I don't know how else you could have made this reanimate 6 different things, but because this is only reanimating 6 different things for 7 mana, there's just like other cards that you can do for not much more. But this is pretty cool. Again, I really like the flavor here. This would be super cool in a villains deck. Deck is still hard can you through here. 73% win rate. Nice. Over 90 best of 1 games. Dang, that's crazy. That's awesome. Black Cat, Cunning Thief, 3 black for a 2/3. When Black Cat enters, look at the top 9 cards of target opponent's deck. Exile 2 of them face down. Put the rest in the bottom of their library in any order. You may play the exiled cards for as long as they remain exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast this spells this way. So like Black Cat is big Gonti basically without Death Touch. So instead of looking at 4 and taking 1, you look at 9 and take 2. But is like basically the same effect other than that. And so this is pretty cool. I like that it is. Bix, thank you for the follow. Oh, you got the Larvitar GIF. Let's go. Got to take off. I appreciate the follow, and I'm glad you think we're chill here. Hopefully we'll see you around again. Of late, we've been doing a lot of TCG stuff between Magic and Lorcana, but once some video games come out that strike my fancy, like Ghost of Tsushima or Ghost of Yote later in the year, we'll get into a bit more of that on stream as well. Thank you for coming by and chatting. Common Crook. 1 and a black for a 2/2. When this creature dies, create a treasure. Cool. Death of Gwen Stacy. 2 and a black. Destroy target creature. Each player may discard a card. Each player who doesn't loses 3 life. So notably, you have to do that as well. Then exile any number of target players' discards. And so this is cool with Mayhem. So on the second phase, you can like discard a card with Mayhem and then cast it. And so you can kind of use it to set up that style deck. And then otherwise, this is just a cool removal spell. You have way too many follows. Completely understandable. Completely understandable. Eddie Brock. This is another modal double face. 2 and a black for a 3/3. When Eddie Brock enters, return target creature card with mana value 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Is that like the idea like the symbiote is small? And so like you're protecting bringing the symbiote back? I don't know. It being 1 cost is really interesting. And then for 3 black, red, green, you can get Venom, Lethal Protector, which has Menace, Trample, and Haste. And then when Venom attacks, you can sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw X cards where then you may put a permanent card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield where X is the sacrificed creature's mana value. So, cool Jund sacrifice deck. It's interesting that it brings back something small, but then rewards you for sacrificing big things. I don't know. That seems strange to me. But there's already a lot of Jund sacrificey decks, and so this one seems pretty fair as far as things go. And so I could see some people that are kind of like me and want to err on the side of more casual decks versus decks that just kind of in the game. Really liking Venom in that sacrifice shell. But then we have Gwynnum, Remorseless, Death Touch Lifelink, 3 double black for a 4/4. It is worth noting that Venom is a hero and a villain. And so, as is Eddie Brock. Nice. Some cool flavor there. So Gwynnum has, when Gwynnum attacks, until end of turn, you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may play cards off the top of your library. If a spell's cast away, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So she's Bolas's Citadel, but has to attack, but can be in your command zone. So that is pretty strong, I feel like. Basically, once you can get that the top deck manipulation, probably goes really well with all the stuff that goes well with Bolas's Citadel. And I would assume you would play Bolas's Citadel in this deck just as another way of powering that out. Inner Demon's Gang. Discard a card. This creature gains 1/1/0 and gains Menace. Very cool for Mr. Negative's team. Merciless Enforcers, another limited stuff. They deal 1 damage to each opponent for 4 mana. So it's a cool way of closing out a game if you just have a bunch of mana. Theoretically, I mean, if you can make infinite mana, you can go infinite and win the game with them. Morlun, Devourer of Spiders. I just recently read some of these comic books with Morlun in them. Oh no, I actually read a book that was about this, and it wasn't actually a comic book. I found a random audio book that was this story. And so X black vampire villain, let's go. Lifelink, they enter with a +1/+1 counter, and then when he enters, he deals X damage to target opponent. So I, have a vampire deck. He's a vampire. Like, I feel like that's going to be a natural fit. He fits in at any point in the curve because of the X mana value. I do think it's interesting that he doesn't target, or like he can't hit creatures with his ability. Like that feels like that would have made sense, as he's the devourer of spiders, and so it would have made sense that like he could deal damage and take out a spider person. But also gestures, if you can make infinite mana, you win, or you can like knock out your opponent. Parker Luck, 2 and a black. At the beginning of your end step, 2 target players each reveal the top card. They clash. They each lose life equal to the mana value of the card revealed. Then put the card revealed, or then they each put the card they revealed into their hand. So that's cool. So it's like Dark Confidant, but for both players, or for 2 different players too. So like in Commander, you could like avoid targeting yourself with that. That's fun. Let's see. I think we might need to let me syntax. I want to do rarity. So we're gonna do R. Or actually, we're gonna just stop talking through commons. I think, just for the sake of time, as we're already an hour in. So Prison Break. 2 or 4 and a black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a ++1 counter on it. Cool. And then it has Mayhem. Awesome flavor. That's a common. Cool art though. Sandman's Quicksand. 2. There's not a Sandman card unless it's under the person's name. Interesting. So 2 black. Has Mayhem for 4. Interesting that it's a Mayhem is more expensive. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If the spell's Mayhem was paid, creatures opponent control get -2/-2 instead. Oh, okay, so that's why it's more. So it hits your opponent, only your opponents. Scorpion, Seething Striker, 3 and a black for a 3/3 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if a character died this turn, target creature you control connives. That's cool. A fun way of getting like some counters on various things. Scorpion Sting is a common. The Soul Stone, the card that everyone is happy about. Nothing bad has happened because of this. There's been no negative discussions. And so 2 and a black for an Infinity Stone. It is legendary and it's indestructible. You can tap it and add black mana. Then you can pay 7 mana, tap it, exile a creature you control to harness the Soul Stone. Once harnessed, its infinity ability is active. Then its infinity ability is at the beginning of your end step, return target creature you control. Or beginning of your upkeep, return target creature you control from your graveyard to the battlefield. Creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. There you go. So obviously super powerful. The fact that this is like a 2 mana rock and has a payoff later in the game is crazy. I think this card is going for buku bucks. Yeah, like the base version of it is $140. The Thanos version is $700. Like, yeah, that's crazy. Just like a mythic in standard is over $100. I'm curious to how much if that crashes. Like VV is still super expensive. Whereas like I could see this not being played as much in standard, but being played more in Commander. So we'll see. Spider-Man Noir, 4 and a black for a 4/4 with Menace. When a creature you control attacks alone, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then surveil X, where X is the number of counters on it. Cool. If this was cheaper, we'd probably play this in Marchesa, but it is too expensive. Spots Portal, 1 and a black. Put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. That's a cool removal spell. Also super cool art of Miles. Comment Tombstone. Also Swarm Bean of Bees. Comic books are crazy, everyone. Tombstone Career Criminal, 1 and a black. When they enter, return target villain from your graveyard to your hand. Villains cost 1 less. Cool villain kindred payoff. Then we have regular Venom. So we already had like Eddie Brock's Transform. Now this is just a normal one. 4 and a black. Venom is common. That feels crazy to me. Like, again, obviously we have the other one. But Venomized Cat, Venomous Hunger. Then we have Villainous Wrath. With it being named Wrath and destroying all creatures is pretty cool. So 3 black, black. Target opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures they control, then destroy all creatures. That seems really cool. A great way of like potentially winning the game if your opponent goes super wide, but otherwise just stabilizing. Also like that it's a Wrath that doesn't get around death effects, unlike Ultima and Farewell. Electro Assaulting Battery. 1 red. Flying. You don't lose red mana as steps and phases end. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, add red. So it's very Burgy, whatever the Kaldham red god is. When Electro leaves the battlefield, you may pay X. If you do, he deals X to target player. So like that's cool. That's really good flavor. So like they store up the mana, and then should Electro get destroyed, you can then use it to zap your opponent. That's really cool. I like that a lot. This would go great in Veyron, which is my instance and sorceries deck. The deck that has the problem of like there's so many cool payoffs that it is hard to make sure you're playing enough instants and sorceries. So let's see. Oh, and we have Gwen, our next flip card. So Gwen is 1 in a red for a 2/1. When she enters, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as you control this creature. So that's cool. And then they flip to Ghost Spider, 2 blue, red, black. Flying Vigilance Haste. When you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Ghost Spider. And then remove 2 counters from Ghost Spider of any kind. So it doesn't have to be the +1/+1s. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. That's really cool. I played the 13th Doctor, like Precon, which is all about like paradox and casting cards from somewhere other than your hand. So like this one is specifically exile, but that's really cool. I would consider making this as an actual commander deck, and I assume that's really cool. Yeah, this I like this art a lot. Like this one is really cool. And this one's cool too. What's the other side of this? Yeah. Those are really cool alt arts. Heroes Hangout. Again, love that the city is sideways. One of my favorite Spider-Man things is that they can have like the heart-to-hearts upside down and stuff like that. We get some of that in the movies. Heroes Hangout for a red. Choose 1. Date Night. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You can play that card. Or Patrol Night. 1 or 2 target creatures you control gain +1/+0 and gain first strike. Hobgoblin Mantled Marauder. 1 in a black. Flying Haste. When you discard a card, they grow. It seems like it could definitely be a standard level threat. Like, there's already a discard deck in the VV deck, and there's already other cards that pay you off for discarding. And so this seems like it could see play in that shell. Like the non-VV plan, basically. Let's see. J. Jonah Jameson. 2/2 for 2 in a red. What is this art? When they enter, suspect up to 1 target creature. That means they gain menace and can't block. When a creature you control with menace attacks, create a treasure token. That's pretty cool. And I do like, of course, that J. Jonah Jameson can suspect himself. Great use of bringing suspect in to this set. Maximum Carnage. 4 and red until your next turn. Each creature attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you if able, so it goads everything. So of note, if you play this pre-combat, your characters, like your creatures, would have to attack. But if you play it post-combat, they wouldn't. Then you gain 3 red mana, then it deals 5 damage to each opponent. That's pretty cool. Molten Man, Inferno Incarnate. 2 and a red for a 0/0. Search your library for a basic mountain. Put on the battlefield tapped. Just like straight up ramp and mono red. Sure. Because +1/+1 for each mountain you control. When they leave, sacrifice a land. That feels pretty great. Raging Goblinoids. 4 and a red for a 5/4 haste with Mayhem 3. Cool. Romantic Rendezvous. Just want to shout out the classic scene here. And then also, like, of course, things being upside down because, you know, Spider-Man. Let's see. Shadow of the Goblin. Enchantment for 1 and a red. Beginning of your first main phase. Discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So it's if you do. So you do actually have to discard a card. This doesn't work if you have no cards in hand. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, this enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent. Speaking of that 13th Doctor deck, like, this card fits right into that. And so, just because they care all about Paradox. So, Shocker, Unshakable. Also just works great with Mayhem. You can use this as a way of discarding your card with Mayhem. And then discarding becomes an upside because you get to play it for like probably a cheaper cost, using like Raging Goblinoids as an example of like discard this on turn 3 and then cast it. Now you have a 5/4 for 3. Shocker Unshakable. They're a 6 mana for a 5/5. During your turn, Shocker has first strike, and then when Shocker enters, deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. Which is a bit expensive, but cool effect. We have a common Gwen. Love this art also. Very cool. Spider-Punk. 1 and a red for a 2/1 with Riot. So they either enter with a +1/+1 counter or haste. They give your other spiders Riot, and then spells and abilities can't be countered, and then damage can't be prevented. That feels like a whole lot of stuff on one card. I know a lot of people have been very high on this card as just like so much going on here. I feel like you could take away any of these individual lines and this card would be very strong. But the fact that, like, if you're playing like a mono red deck that you're not countering spells or abilities anyway, this just protects your stuff. If you are playing a lot of spiders, this is a way of giving them haste or pumping them up. Yeah, really cool. There's a handful of decks that kind of just need a way of like making sure your stuff can't be countered. I was working on an Eivor deck for a while, and that deck kind of just has the like, hey, you have a 6 mana commander that's like very like broadcasted that what you want to try to do, and so having a way of making sure your commander can't be countered is really strong. Next we have Spider-Verse. Amazing art. Let's go. 3 and red. The legend rule doesn't apply to spiders you control. Sure. When you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may copy it. If you do, you may choose new targets for the copy. If the copy is a permanent spell, it gains haste. Do this only once each turn. Like, again, it's so funny that like Rashmi and Ragavan, or not 13th Doctor is just like accidentally like kind of a Spider-Man themed deck. And then I don't think anything else like has a ton of great ways of casting things from not your hand. Like Rashmi and Ragavan can have that, but you don't have as much control over what you're casting. So I feel like it would be a lot more risk with this card, but I like the every spider ever and then some. Spinneret and Spiderling, who are some of like, I think Peter and MJ's kids in one of the universes. a red for a 1/2. When you attack with 2 or more spiders, put a +1/+1 counter on them. And then they, whenever they deal 4 or more damage, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may, end of your next turn, you may play that card. That's cool. Like, especially if you can pump them up in other ways. And then you can kind of just like perpetually get more stuff. I think this might be a Marchesa the Black Rose card. Like, they're a cheap card that can do great stuff with counters on it. I don't know if Marchesa would ever be playing enough spiders to like pay off that second ability, or that first ability, I mean. But that is a really cool way of like, that deck already wants to grow things. And so, let's see, skip that. Skip the common. Superior Foes of Spider-Man, 3 and a red for a 3/3 with trample. When you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. If you do, you may play that card until you exile another card with this creature. Again, like 13th Doctor, just like accidentally becoming a Spider-Man deck. I have all of these things to just like protect the... and you can play the card too. So this actually works if you hit a land. I like that. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Wisecrack, 2 and a red. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to itself. If that creature is attacking, Wisecrack deals 2 damage to target creature's controller. Really funny that there was like just a green card that they had to like errata because of this, but that's funny. Seems really good. I like this. Again, great flavor. Really cool stuff. Damage control crew. 3 and a green for a human citizen, 3/3. They enter, choose 1. Repair, return target card with mana value 4 or greater from your graveyard to your hand, or exile target artifact or enchantment. Cool flexibility there. Either like buy back a removal, like a big removal spell, or you can get rid of something. Cool. Probably a bit expensive for the effect at 4 mana, but Ezekiel Sims, Spider Token, 4 and a green. During combat on your turn, target spider you control gets +2/+2. Cool. Shout out to the guy in the chair. Let's see. Craven's Last Hunt, 3 and a green. Mill 5 cards. If you do this saga, or when you do, the saga deals damage equal to the greatest power among creatures, creature cards in your graveyard to target creature. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and then return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Lizard, Connor's Curse, 4 green for a 5/5 with trample. When it enters, up to 1 target creature loses all abilities and becomes a green lizard with base power and toughness 4/4. So most notably, that doesn't go away. So this, you could use this in Commander to just turn your opponent's commander into a lizard. And then like they can't recast it until it dies. And so, or you could use this as a way of like, you've cast your mana dorks and now you don't need them anymore, so you can turn them into a 4/4. That's pretty cool too. Lurking Lizards is a common. And then Miles Morales, who I think is our last flip. Oh, there is a Sandman card. He is just in green. Okay, so Miles is a 1/2 for 2, and then when he enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So him could be himself and another creature. And then you can also flip him or cast him for 3 red, green, white. Transform Miles Morales, activate only a sorcery. You get the ultimate Spider-Man. First strike and haste. And then put a +1/+1 to put a +1/+1 counter on Ultimate Spider-Man. He gains hexproof and becomes colorless until end of turn, as he like becomes invisible with camouflage. That's cool. When you attack, double the number of each kind of counter on each spider and a legendary creature you control. So they're either legendaries or they are spiders, and you double the counters. That seems pretty cool. Works great with Arwen, I think is what people were talking about, who starts with an indestructible counter. Since she is a legendary creature, it just lets you like get more and more of that counter. Pictures of Spider-Man. 2 and a green. When this artifact enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them. Put them into your hand. So basically a 3 mana, draw 2, assuming you hit creatures. And then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and then sacrifice it to create a treasure token. So you sell the photos. A+ flavor. Radioactive Spider, a green for a 1/1 with reach and death touch. That's pretty playable. And then Fateful Bite, 2, sack it, search your library for a Spider Hero card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle, activate only as a sorcery. If we were to play any Spider Heroes, I could see us playing this card in Marin of Clan Neltoth, just because it's a cheap way of like getting a sack outlet to start triggering your experience. We would need to have something that we would want to search for, but this would be a cool way of having a great blocker. Then Marin can also just like buy this card back, and so with that reanimation ability. Sandman, Shifting Scoundrel, 1 double green. Creature type sand. Okay, I see y'all. Sand elemental villain. Interesting that he's not human, just sand. Are there other creature type sand? Like I know there's like desert warrior type cards. Are those sand? Power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. He can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And then return this card and target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That's pretty cool. Like 5 mana is a lot, but like you get that rebate. Yeah. I think the only thing getting in the way of this being a good commander is not having trample. But in green, there's so many ways of giving trample, like Shadow Spear, to name one. But like, yeah, seems pretty cool. That's a cool effect. I like that you can get a land back also. Scout the City is a common. Spider Ham, Peter Porker, 1 and a green for a 2/2. When they enter, create a food token. And then Animal Mayhem. Other spiders, boars, bats, bears, birds, cats, dogs, frogs, jackals, lizards, mice, otters, rabbits, raccoons, rats, squirrels, turtle, and wolves get +1/+1. So he's a lord for most like non-human like creatures. And yeah, it's like basically the animals. That's pretty fun. I think this is a card that's going to show up in some trivia thing of like give $1,000 to whoever can name all of the things at like a Magic event, or it'll be something like for Command Zone Live, they always like open with a trivia thing. And that's how you can like earn points to see who goes first. And I could see this like who can name the most things off of this. I also like that this is alphabetical except for spiders. Oh, no, it's not alphabet. No, boars is second. Oh, maybe because they are a spider boar. So spiders and boars are first, then the rest are in alphabetical order. But that is indeed a thing. Spider Rex is a common. Spiders Man, Heroic Horde. It's a cool little epitaph. 1 and a green for a 2/3 with web slinging 6. When they enter, if they were cast using their web slinging, you can gain 3 life and create 2/1 green spider creature tokens with reach. Sure. Strength of Will, super cool card. Love that art. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains indestructible, and whenever this creature is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. It's a really cool combat trick. So like, and you can basically just like protect your creature, get a bunch of counters, and then be stronger for the next attack. Yeah, that's cool. Supportive Parents, 2 and a green for 3/3. for the Morales family. I'll untap 2 untapped creatures you control, add 1 mana of any color. This feels either bad or broken, and I'm not sure which one. Like, obviously, if you can create like a whole bunch of creature tokens, like there's a rabbit from Bloomburrow that uses, like, you can tap tokens to make mana. And so, like, if you're doing that, like doing token shenanigans, this just makes like a ton of mana. And if you can like populate and create like copies of your tokens for a set amount of mana, you can then use this, like with Reese, the Redeemed, you can then use this as a way of just like creating a whole bunch of stuff. Terrific team up, 3 and a green. The spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. 1 or 2 target creatures you control each gain +1/+1/+0 until end of turn. They each deal damage equal to the power to target creature an opponent controls. So it's like, it's a bite effect, where 2 things can attack 1 thing for theoretically 2 mana. That's pretty cool. Web Crawl, cool art. 3 and a green. When this enchantment enters, create a 2/1 with reach, and then you gain 1 life for each spider you control. Okay. Spiders you control get +1/+1 and can't be blocked by creatures with Defender. The idea is, I guess, that they web crawl over the wall. Okay. Feels niche, but okay. Then we have the Web of Life and Destiny. 6 green with Convoke. Oh, okay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature from among them on the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So if you have a lot of haste, this card like lets you get another haster into play before you attack. So I mean, it's basically a free creature every turn. So that feels cool. Next we got Aranya, Heart of the Spider. 1 red white for a 3/3. When you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. So it doesn't have to be Aranya. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile top card of your library, you may play that card this turn. That's really cool. Like, you can use this as a way of getting some really cool value. Wish this was playable in Marchesa. But yeah, that's really cool. That's a great effect. Works great in the classic Boros like equipment decks, as there's like way too many cards of that type, but then also just works really well as a like in a modified shell of any kind. And so, because like we have oh no, I guess Miles is Jund, and it was the one that cared about +1/+1. No, Gwyn cared about +1/+1 counters as well. That, like, you could take those off to cast things from exile, so it fits in well in that shell. Bioorganic Carapace, 2 white, blue for an equipment. When it enters, attach it to target creature. Okay, that's cool. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card for each modified creature you control. Yeah, so those work great together in the Gwyn deck. Carnage, Crimson Chaos. 2 black-red for a 4/3 with trample. When they enter, return target creature card, the main value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains when this creature attacks each combat enable, and when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. And then Carnage has Mayhem. Pretty cool. Like, that's a great reanimation effect. It gets you back something that's just like 1 mana smaller than it, and then gives you like, they last until they deal combat damage to a player. So you could use this to just like perpetually get back a blocker. That's pretty cool. Cheer and Crowd, a 2/2 for 1, and then hybrid red-green. At the beginning of each player's first main phase, that player may put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. If they do, they add colorless for each counter on it. Cards like this, I feel like, are bad 99% of the time. Cool flavor. But you're giving your opponents mana before you get mana, and then they can just use that mana to destroy your stuff. So If for some reason they don't, or you can like protect this creature somehow, like that's a pretty cool effect. But that feels like a lot to have to go right for this card to like be remotely playable in a way that doesn't like harm you as you play. Cosmic Spider-Man for Wooburg for a 5/5 with flying, first strike, trample, lifelink, and haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, your other spiders gain flying, first strike, trample, lifelink, and haste until end of turn. So this is the like, we know people are going to want to build a 5-color Spider-Man deck with all the spider people. And so we're giving you the commander so that you can play those, and like it's kind of just like general keyword soup, and then gives that keyword soup to your other spiders. So like, oh, and again here, $200 for the extended art. Gets the job done, but like I don't think is like an exciting card, other than wanting to play all the spider people in one deck. So Doc Ock, Master Planner, 3 black, blue. Your other villains gain +2/+2. Your maximum hand size is 8. Beginning of your end step, if you have fewer than 8 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Very powerful effect, very Jin Kataxis-esque. Or there's like a Sultai legend that does a similar thing. And so, yeah, cool way to draw a bunch of cards. Love that it's also like a double pump for your villains. We're not necessarily talking about commons, but I like Gallant Citizen. Just when this creature enters, draw a card. I play Tulane. There's a chance this card could find its way into Tulane, of just like a way to churn through more stuff. Green Goblin, Revenant, Flying Death Touch. It's 3 black, red for a 3/3. Flying Death Touch. When it attacks, discard a card, then draw a card for each card you discarded this turn. So it's at least a rummage, because you're at least discarding to draw 1. But then if you have discarded other cards throughout the turn, you can get more. It seems cool. Does have to attack, but like seems cool in like a discard synergy deck. Jackal, Genius Geneticist for green and a blue for a 1/1. When you cast a creature spell with mana value equal to Jackal's power, copy that spell, except the copy isn't legendary. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Jackal. The copy becomes a token. So this is a cool way of, I mean, creating copies of anything, but it's very finicky. It kind of reminds me of Volo from the D&D set, where like Volo would make a copy of a creature only if you didn't control a creature that shared a type with it. And so this seems like a fun puzzle of a deck to build. And so, yeah. Next up, Craven Proud Predator. 1 black green for a star 4 with vigilance. His power is equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. And then Craven the Hunter. 1 black green. When a creature an opponent controls with the greatest power among creatures that player controls dies, draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on Craven. Cool. I wish that, like, obviously that works well with fights. I wish like Craven more directly fought things. But the fact that anytime you take down their biggest thing, Craven gets pumped. I feel like from a flavorful perspective for Craven, like there should have been like a cap somewhere, because like Craven isn't interested in hunting small prey. So like the fact that like, oh, I could destroy your 10/10, and then if all you have is 1/1s, destroying the 1/1s would power up Craven. Like, that feels kind of lame. But like the card's obviously a lot stronger without that rider. MJ, when a spider you control enters, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Cool, in the Peter Parker deck. Hybrid mana is going to suck for this card. I know I've seen people talking about that, just because like you can't play this card in Miles or in Gwyn for their like flip versions, because of the hybrid symbol. So that does suck. I am a big proponent that the hybrid mana rules should have changed a long time ago for Commander, but here we are. Mr. Negative, 5 black white, 5/5 with a vigilance and lifelink. When they enter, you can exchange life totals with target opponent. If you lost life this way, draw that many cards. Cool way of drawing a whole bunch of cards, but very expensive. This is, I feel like, is the type of card I would really like an opponent to play in a game of Commander, as like, because it would create, like, it creates an interesting mini game where, like, your opponent, well, you don't want your life total to be too low because then they heal for a bunch, but then, like, you also don't want theirs to be too low because then you get stuck with like their life total. So, like, you kind of have that weird thing of, like, if they're really high, I think I said the same thing twice earlier. If they have a very high life total, they can swap and then just draw like 20 cards. But if you have a really high life total, you just take like 30 damage. And so I feel like that creates an interesting minigame that I would like to not have to worry about every time I want to bust out this deck. And so it's Morbid time for 2 blue black for a 3/1 flying vigilance lifelink. Exile this card from your graveyard. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. That is a card. A 3/1 for 4. Like, I don't know. Not bad, but just feels expensive. Prowler. Cool art. 1 blue black for a 2/3 with Menace. When another villain you control enters, Prowler connives. Again, another card that we would really like in Marchesa if this wasn't specifically like villains. There's just like not a great, like, with villains being so new to Magic, there's just like not a lot of them, and so it'd be hard to get this card conniving in a Commander deck that's not built around villains. Pumpkin Bomb, hybrid black red, additional cost to play the spell, discard a card or pay 2, and then it deals 3 damage to target creature. So this is like smaller Lightning Axe, whereas like Lightning Axe is 1 red to deal 5 damage to target creature, and then you have to discard a card or pay 4. So this is like half the cost with only being pay 2 mana, but notably this pays off Mayhem. It's like you can use 1 red mana, discard a card with Mayhem, and then get that card back, which is pretty cool. Let's see, Rhino Barreling Brute. 3 red, green for a 6/7 with Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. When they attack, if you've cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater this turn, draw a card. That's fine. Cool and limited. Not really super exciting for Commander or anything, but just with being so expensive. So if this was a 4-drop, that was like obviously weaker or something, like that would be cool. But I feel like at 7 mana, that is not exciting. Rhino's Rampage, hybrid red-green. Target creature you control gets +1/+0, and it fights target creature an opponent controls. Excess damage we dealt this way to a creature that won't destroy up to 1 target non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. So that's cool. So like if you overkill the creature, you also get to like snipe their soul ring or something. That's fun. We got a few spiders. Scarlet Spider, Ben Riley, web slinging, or 1 red-green for a 4/3 with web slinging red-green. Trample, and then if Scarlet Spider was cast for its web slinging, he enters with X +1/+1 counters on him, where X is the mana value of the returned creature. This card feels like gas. I know I've seen other people talk about this, but like if you can, even like Mana Dork, like you play a Mana Dork, you then tap it for red or green mana, you then use that and the land to cast Scarlet Spider, he becomes a 5/4 with Trample for 2. Like, that seems really strong. Just at like a base level. Then let alone the better the thing that you return, the better, like the higher his power gets, and then with Trample. So that feels like the real deal. Next we have Scarlet Spider Kane. Menace, or it's a black-red for a 2/1. Menace, when it enters, discard a card. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter. Or you may discard. And then Spider Cane has Mayhem as well. So, cool. That's a cool ability. It is both a Mayhem payoff and has Mayhem itself, which is great. So you can like discard this card to something, play it, then discard another card, play that. That's pretty cool. Shriek Troublemaker. 2 and then hybrid red black. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may discard a card. When you do this, a target creature can't block this turn. Cool with Mayhem. And then when a creature an opponent controls dies, Shriek deals 1 damage to that player. That's pretty cool too. Silk, 2 green white for a 3/5 with web slinging, 1 green white. When you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 human citizen. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. So web slinging is cast. So like you could web sling things, then create a human token, and then use that human token once you tap it to then cast more things for web slinging, which then gets you another human token. So that's pretty cool. Then you just kind of have a pump payoff at the end. Spider, piloted by Penny, 3 white blue for a 4/4 with vigilance. When they enter, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Cool. That's a cool modified payoff. Spider Girl, Legacy Hero, black, green, white for 2/2. During your turn, Spider Girl has flying. When they leave the battlefield, create a 1/1 human citizen. Sure. Spider-Man 2099. When you cast Spider-Man 29, you can't cast Spider-Man 2099 during your first, second, or third turns of the game. Saying 2099 so many times is tripping me up. So you can play them on turn 4 and going forward, and then they have double strike and vigilance. And then at the beginning of your instep, if you play a land or cast a spell this turn from anywhere other than your hand, they deal damage equal to their power to any target. That's pretty cool. So if you can like power them up some way, they deal more damage. Otherwise, they're just like a little bit of a payoff. Again, 13th Doctor is going to like accidentally become a Spider-Man deck here. Since she puts +1/+1 counter things when you cast things from exile. So, Spider-Man India, 5 green white for a 4/4 with web slinging, 1 green white. And then when you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains flying until end of turn. That's pretty cool. I think this might break into Hamza. Like it's a cheap cast. It's like 8,000 things for Hamza. Like it's cheap to cast, and then it just like puts counters on things as you do your game plan in that deck, and then it also gives flying. So yeah. Spider-Woman, Stunning Savior, 1 white blue for a 2/2 with flying. Artifacts and creatures your opponent control enter tap. Cool. Spot, 1 white black for a 4/4. When it enters, exile 1 target non-land permanent and up to 1 target non-land permanent card from a graveyard. When Spot enters, put him on the bottom. When he dies, put him on the bottom of his owner's library. If you do, return the exiled cards to their owner's hand. That's cool. I'm curious, commander-wise. You can say yes, put him on the bottom, and then exile him, like because that's changing zones. So like they would go to the graveyard, you would choose to have them go to the graveyard, so they would die, and then you could then choose to put them on the bottom, and then put them in the command zone. And then you can use this to get back your own stuff or to remove an opponent's threat. So that's pretty cool. Sun Spider, Nimble Webber. And so this hand looks weird. Of like, can we enhance? Like how are they? Oh, they have, okay, that's how, this isn't, okay. I was like, how are they holding this? But it has like a baton thing, and I just couldn't see. Okay. That makes more sense. I was so confused. Okay, so 3 with the white and a blue for a 3/2. During your turn, they have flying. When they enter, search your library for an ore or equipment, reveal it, put it in your hand, or for the modified stuff. Superior Spider-Man. I read some of these comics at recommendation of a friend, and Superior Spider-Man's super cool. It's when Otto Octavius becomes Spider-Man. Let's see, Mind Swap. You may have them enter as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except their name is Superior Spider-Man, and he's a 4/4. In addition to his other types, when you do, exile that card. This is a cool way of like sniping like big threats from your opponent's reanimation decks and just turning them into Superior Spider-Man. And then you also can like take their like ETBs, since like you lose power and toughness. So like feels like the dream here would be like sniping an opponent's Atraxa, and then like having Valgavoth, and then like having this like getting that with this and having like those effects on this character. I mean, Symbiote Spider-Man, 1 or 2, and then hybrid blue-black. When this creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So basically like surveil that you get to draw. And then 2 white, or 2, and then a hybrid blue-black. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains this card's other abilities. Activate only as a sorcery. That feels like it's going to be hard to track, but that's super cool. So like you can use this to like give this effect as you like pass the symbiote. That's fun. Ultimate Green Goblin, 1 hybrid black-red, hybrid black-red. Beginning of your upkeep, discard a card to create a treasure token, and then has Mayhem. Cool Mayhem payoff. Vulture, Scheming Scavenger, 3 blue hybrid blue-black for a 4/6. Flying, when he attacks, your other villains gain flying until end of turn. Cool. That's a cool payoff for villains. 7 mana or 6 mana is a lot to then have to attack to get the ability, but Webbed Warriors, 4, then hybrid green-white for a 4/3. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. So this is like the generic, like granted all of these cards I think have cards in the set, but like it's just kind of the generic like, yeah, there's other Webbed Warriors, here they are. Wraith, 1 blue black or 1 white blue, there we go, with double strike, fear gas, they can't be blocked. That's cool. It's a little low to see play in Camise. Like it would need some other like on attack trigger or deal damage trigger, but very cool. Look, how's it going? Been lurking for a while, for the whole stream. Oh, I appreciate you while you work on stuff. But wanted to actually say hi. Thank you for coming by and saying hi. I appreciate the lurk. I hope you have been having a great Sunday as well. My Sunday has been busy, busy. Did some chores this morning, like mowed the lawn, and then I bottled my latest home brews so I can take that to people at work tomorrow. And then we went to the gym and then rushed home so I could do stream. Let's see. Doc Ox, Tentacles. 1 mana for an equipment. When a creature you control with mana value 5 or greater enters, you may attach this equipment to it. The equipped creature gets +4/+4 and then has equip for 5. That's pretty cool. So you can just like auto move this to your big things. This kind of reminds me of like a way I had been trying to build Starscream when I built that deck, with the problem being that like Starscream ceased to be a creature when it was plain, but that's a cool thing. Free equips are always great. Okay, next up we have the Interdimensional Web Watch, 4 mana for an effect, for an artifact that for an effect. Yes, is effect. Artifact. When this creature enters, exile the top 2 cards of your library until end of your next turn. You can play those cards. 2, then tap, add 2 mana of any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast spells from exile. This is like so close to being what Osgir wants. Like if that, like a 4 mana artifact that gets you card advantage would be great to reanimate with Osgir, but like only being able to use it to cast spells from exile is, I think, too big of a limiter. Iron Spider, Stark upgrade. Vigilance, and then it has, this is a Vigilance 2/3 for 3. Put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact, creature, and or vehicle you control. Then 2, remove 2 counters from among artifacts you control to draw a card. So this attacks and then can tap itself in combat to become a 3/4, which is pretty cool. Living Brain, Mechanical Marvel. Beginning of combat on your turn, target non-equipment artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. Untap it. That feels like a shenanigans card to me. Like, surprise, take a bunch of combats. Like, you can be untapping, like, Mana Vault? Whatever the, not Mana Vault. Whatever the artifact is that when you untap it, you take an extra turn. So, yeah. Seems like a big shenanigan card to me. Mechanical Mobster. Cool art. And then News Helicopter is cool. The Fairy. Peter Parker's Camera. 1. For an artifact, it enters with 3 film counters. 2, remove a film counter from this artifact. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control. Can choose new copies or targets for the copy. That doesn't feel like a rare to me. This feels like the card that I would open way too many of if I was going to open packs of this. Then we have the rocket-powered Goblin Glider. 3, for an equipment. When it enters, if it was cast from your graveyard, attach it. Cool. And then it equips for, or it has 2, and then it gives you creature +2/+0, flying and haste, equip 2 and mayhem 2. Great payoff. Like the fact that if you mayhem this, you just get to equip it, and then the creature that you equip it to gains haste. This is cool with the Scarlet Spider Cane. Of like, discard this, Cane gets a +1/+1, then equip it, or then cast it from Mayhem and then equip it. That feels pretty cool. The Spider-Mobile, glad it gets a shout out, I guess. When this vehicle attacks or blocks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each spider you control, because they all fit in the car, I guess. Spider Slayer, Hatred Honed. 2 for a 2/1. Whenever it deals damage to a spider, destroy that creature. Exile this card from your graveyard. Create 2 tapped 1/1 colorless robots. Sure. Spider Suit, 1. Crit creature gets +2/+2 and is a spider hero in addition to the other types. Cool. Let's see. Then we have our lands as our next things. So Daily Bugle. Add 1 mana. So it's a filter land. And then you can pay 1, tap it. Target legendary creature gains menace until end of turn. Fun use of the flavor word. Multiversal Passage. When this land enters, choose a basic land type. Then you pay 2. If you don't, it enters tapped. And this land is the chosen type. So it's a shock land that can tap for any color of mana, but only 1 mana per game. So like if you needed an extra black land one game, you could use it for that. Then the next game you could use this as a blue if you needed a blue. That's cool. And then let's see. Oh, there's a handful of these surveil lands, it looks like, in the main. The draft archetype only has 5. Like there's only 5 draft archetypes in the set. There we go. And so there's only 5 of the lands for that reason. But we have Oscorp Industries. It enters tapped. It enters from a graveyard. You lose 2 life. And then it taps for Grixis. And then it has Mayhem, which is pretty cool. Then we have Urban Retreat. When this land enters, it enters tapped. Taps for Bant, which is so Peter Parker versus Osborne with these. Then pay 2, return target tapped creature you control to its owner's hand. Put this card from your hand onto the battlefield. Activate only as sorcery. That's cool. It's like it's web slinging basically. You can like pay 2 and web sling to ramp. So that's a cool idea. But yeah, so those are the new cards. Some cool stuff for sure. I like Gwen. Like Gwen's card is probably one of my favorites from this. If I was going to like build a commander deck. So the Scarlet Spider Kane feels really cool, as does the other Scarlet Spider. Ben Riley. Like Ben Riley feels very strong. And then I like Spider-Man 2099 also feels super good. I feel like this card is probably, it's not, I mean, that's cool art there. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think I would pay $30 for this card, but I could see this. If this ever like got cheaper, I could definitely see picking this up. So those are the main set cards. There's also a like new player product that's like Spider-Man, like heroes versus villains, and so it has like a much cooler set symbol IMO versus the mask. Like the actual spider, I think is really cool. So let's look through these. Again, we're going to skip commons for the sake of time. Amazing Alliance, 1 white. For an enchantment, creatures you control get +1/+1. When you attack with one or more legendary creatures, gain that much life. That's fun. Doc Ock, Evil Inventor, 5 blue-black for an 8/8. Beginning of combat on your turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes an 8/8 robot villain. Artifact creature in addition to its other types. So it's cool that you could use this on a vehicle because a lot of vehicles have attack triggers. So you could use this to turn a vehicle into a creature. Double Trouble. Double the power of each creature you control until end of turn. Cool way of closing out games. Future Flight. 2 blue, enchant creature. When it enters, draw 2 cards. Enchanted creature gains +2/+0 and has flying. Cool. Another Ghost Spider. 3 red for a 4/4. When it attacks, it deals X damage to defending player, where X is the number of attacking creatures. That's pretty strong. Kind of reminds me of the War Doctor in a way. Grasping Tentacle, 1 blue-black. Each opponent target opponent mills 8 cards. You may put an artifact card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That's pretty cool. Green Goblin, Nemesis. Oh, and I think this also includes, I think these are like showcase cards from like they did this for Lord of the Rings, and so that's why some of them look different. I think the non-full art ones are from the starter product, and then this other art is like the panorama product. So Green Goblin is 2 black-red for a 3/3 with flying. Whenever you discard a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on target goblins. That could be themselves. Whenever you discard a land, create a tapped treasure. Okay. Grindel, Spawn of Null. That feels like this could have just been a Spawn of Null for a Death Touch flying 3/3. It's also crazy that this thing is like literally tearing a building apart and is like larger than helicopters, and not just a 3/3. Lethal Protection, 3 and a black for a sorcery. Destroy target creature. Return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Lila, Holographic Assistant. When you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That's pretty cool. MJ, Rising Star. Vigilance, when you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on MJ. Cool. So she's like an Ajani's Pride Mate with Vigilance. So that's cool. We got another Prowler. Interesting. This Prowler is green, and the other Prowler is blue-black. So it's interesting that there's no overlap there. Prowler can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. When Prowler deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. Pumpkin Bombs artifact, tap, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards, then put a fuse counter on this artifact. It deals damage equal to the number of fuse counters on it to target opponent. They gain control of this artifact. Great chaos card. That's really fun. I could see Pumpkin Bombs seems like this could be an Osgear card. And so just as a way of like constantly buying these back, and then you can sacrifice it rather than giving it to an opponent. Like put the trigger on the stack, sacrifice it. Once it gets to be too high. Oops, I just closed out of the wrong thing. Go back here. Spider-Man Eternal, yes. Okay, none of these are reprints. So, let's see. Sensational Spider-Man, 1 blue-white. For a 3/3, when they attack, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then you remove up to 3 stun counters from among all permanents. Draw cards equal to the number of stun counters removed this way. So basically, when they attack, tap target creature, draw a card is kind of the minimum. Or you can like leave a creature tapped down, and then also some cool alternate stun counter shenanigans. So, but that's cool. Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, 4 in a blue for a 4/4. When they enter, return up to 1 target creature their owner's hands. It's Mana War again. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. 1 or more there. That gets you. Spider-Man Miles Morales. Let's see if Vigilance Trample, 5/5. When they enter or attack, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Those creatures gain Trample until end of turn. That's cool. So like you get to give Trample to your other stuff. Spider-Man Peter Parker is a 4/4 with flying. When you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Oof. That's crazy. Symbiote Spawn just being a random common, sure. The Mary Janes. It's cool that the band gets a card. 3 and a red. The spell costs 1 less for each creature that attacked this turn. They just a menacing 3/3. That's fun. Twisted Spider Clone. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Sure. Venom Blast. 4 green. This looks like he's fighting Kraven. I wonder if this is this like a video game reference, or is this just like, is there another Miles versus Kraven Venom story? Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature. Cool. A cool bite effect. Venom Deadly Devourer. It's a 4/4 for 4 black-green. Vigilance Menace. Exile target card from a graveyard. When you do, put X +1/+1 counters on target symbiote, where X is the exiled card's toughness. So you can use this to pump Venom up, or you can use this to pump up a different symbiote. And then we have 4 black for Venom, Eddie Brock. What was the flip Venom? Oh, because it's just Eddie Brock, right? Eddie Brock is the front. Yes, okay, so that's how they got around it. Okay. So 4 black for a 6/4 with Menace. When another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Venom. If that creature was a villain, draw a card. So It's a cool way of like presenting anti-hero, especially when this Venom isn't a hero villain like the other one is, like the flip one. And so it's a cool way of like, as Venom gets rid of other villains, they get stronger, or you get to like draw a card. And then, yeah, that's cool. And then last thing that we have are some reprints. We're going to not read names. We're going to kind of just admire art for these. Because these are 41 reprints. And these are art inspired by prominent comic books, I believe, or at least prominent panels. And so there is one issue here with this 9 Lives, which is actually credited to the wrong artist. They just put out a statement on that, but we're going to kind of just go and admire the artwork here. So this Comeuppance is really funny. Love that. Great use of the spot to get that. Let's see. Reprieve being a spider hammock. Sure. Rest in Peace being Ben Parker's. Like Uncle Ben's grave is crazy. That's so brutal. Wedding ring being Spider-Man and MJ's wedding is cool. Clever impersonator as Chameleon is cool as well. Counterspell being Doc Ock slapping Spider-Man, sure. And then we have a re-art of Lorthos the Tidemaker as Doc Ock armed and dangerous. We have Mindbreak Trap is cool. It's a cool use of Mysterio. Mystic Confluence as Venom suit Spider-Man. I don't necessarily get that one. Oh, and then we just have a white screen. Hello? Okay, there we go. Ponder, Spider-Man just chilling up high, looking around. Yeah, let's go. Rite of Replication being a whole bunch of spider people. Cool. Traumatize. Mysterio taking off his helmet. Sure. Feed the Swarm. This seems like this could have been a great chance for Spider-Man. Like they could have been the Swarm. Hex destroys 6 target creatures. It being the Sinister Six is cool. Opposition Agent as Agent Venom is really cool. Reanimate being Spider-Man emerging from the grave is cool. Venom, or a reprint of Skitherix, the Blight Dragon as Venom King in Black. Giving Venom Infect is pretty cool. Goblin Bombardment as Green Goblin. Spider-Gwen Webbed Warrior as a reprint of Najila, the Blade Blossom. Love this Ghost Spider art. I kind of wish this got used on a different card versus just being like a reprint of Najila. Reckless Assault being Prowler versus Miles is really cool. Savage Beating being Venom taking out Spider-Man is really cool. Unexpected Windfall being MJ saying a face at Tiger, you just hit the jackpot, which I use as flavor text elsewhere. Arachnogenesis getting a reprint. Crazy to me that that's not in the real set, like the main set. I understand why, but that is crazy to me. Master Weaver, Web Protector as a reprint of Arasta, the Endless Web. What does this card do? When an opponent casts an instant sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider with reach. Okay. Beast Within being Lizard is really cool. I think that should have been like they should have used art of like Lizard changing or something like that. I don't know. Heroic Intervention being like one of the most classic Spider-Man panels, or like pictures, is really cool. This Parallel Lives is the parallel lives of Peter versus Miles is really cool. I feel like they should have worked in Gwen here as well, but that is just me. Silk Guard having silk on it, cool. Then Iron Spider Silver Warrior as a reprint of Alibu. That's cool for the Alibu players. Just getting another. That's a really sick art to use for that character. And then Traumatize being Venom versus, or it's Carnage versus Spider-Man. Cool. I like this art. I wish that we would have gotten more of this. Like, I don't want the actual set to have just been comic book panels. But it would have been cool if a lot of the art in the main set was comic book panels, kind of like what they did with like we didn't look at them, but like if you go like the alternate sagas are kind of presented as like comic book panels. I think it would have been cool if they could have like done something more similar to that for more stuff, or even like this Death of Gwen Stacy. Like this looks like a comic book style, so but that's probably just like too specific to try to do a lot. And like I said, I feel like there's a balance there of like you can't have everything be a comic book panel, but and I'm sure the licensing to do that would have been crazy. So, but yeah, cool set, smaller set, I believe as far as things go. Like we took out reprints, but like, so I know it's 286 or 193 draft cards. Okay. And then I wonder if that, oh yeah, then that just kind of puts in, yeah. Oh yeah, so the borderless scenes for the cards. Then what else do we have? The borderless web slingers, which is cool. Borderless panels. Yeah, so this is kind of what I'm talking about. Like I would have loved to have seen this style stuff for more cards, because it looks like it's kind of just like the main cards that got this, or like you got your sagas, and then there's like a handful of like villains. It looks like it's villains and MJ and Spider-Woman. Sure. Then the borderless classic comic cards. It's like, yeah, it's like that's really cool. So like again, this is kind of the stuff that I would like to have seen more of. Textured foil, Spectacular Spider-Man in the different suits is pretty cool. And then you have your extended arts, yeah. And then your promos. This promo Gwenom was really cool. Yeah, so some cool stuff. I'm excited. I'm very curious to what this is going to look like on the back of Final Fantasy being like the highest selling Magic set ever. And then I am very curious to what do I want to say? Like with this kind of being a weirder set that seems like it was supposed to be super small, and then kind of did like the everyone in the kitchen sink kind of thing with the cards. Because like there was thinking that this might have been supposed to be like an Assassin's Creed size set. But instead they ended up with, it's like how big was Assassin's Creed? Yeah, Assassin's Creed is 110 cards in the normal booster packs, and so Spider-Man is like 80 more than that, and so I'm definitely curious to how this is going to be received. And then like as we were talking about throughout, especially with the weirdness of Arena not using Spider-Man, they had to do like their own branding of it. Speaking of which, do we have the Through the Omen Paths on here? I don't know. I think there's only been like one Through the Omen's Path card so far, which is the Soul Stone. Maybe there's other ones, but that's the one I remember seeing. The Soul Stone view of printings. No. Okay. I was curious if there would be more stuff. Oh, this is a cool. They have like a little like on the back end. It's assigned to this ID, and that's how they can link them together. Nice. But yeah, cool stuff. I'm excited for it. I don't know if I'm going to be buying a lot of physical Spider-Man product, just because I have not been buying Magic product lately. But I am excited to play with some of the cards, and I might try to just like pick up some singles or something like that. I'm definitely sad there's no commander decks. That does feel like a miss to me, that they're using it like they're doing welcome decks, but not commander decks. But at the same time, we did just get a bunch of decks from Final Fantasy. There we go. We just got the 4 from that, and then we got the 2 from Edge of Eternities. So, especially because like I feel like they would fall into the problem. They kind of would have ended up being almost like the Doctor Who decks, where like you have your Grixis villains, and then you would have had like the main spider people. Like I would have kind of just built them around, even if like the main even if the flip versions of this, like of Peter, Eddie, Gwen, Miles, and Norman are not in the deck, I would have built like the commander decks around those color identities, and use that as the way of differentiating them. But oh yeah, scene. Oh yeah, so here they kind of get laid out. So this is off because like this is supposed to be in the middle, but and then I guess this is somewhere else. Maybe down here. I don't know. But yeah, so cool stuff. Excited for Spider-Man. Excited to see what it looks like. Thank you all for coming by and hanging out. Bix, thank you for the follow. As a general shout out, tomorrow night we will be back on First Geek 411 with Daggerheart, returning for session 2 of our campaign. As Tasha's character is about to take a hit from like a zombie thing, and so where we kind of left our cliffhanger last time. And so with that, hope everyone has a great day. Hope everyone can come and catch us later. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday and start of your week. Bye.